Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. We're also sponsored by Architect, the premier site for hosting your decks on the internet. I love them and they love me, and it seems like a good reason for you to use them. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Quiver and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. Oh my goodness gracious, I am so excited. I've wanted to have the guest on since I started this show 295 episodes ago. I think I had you on my last show, Commander, at least once or twice.
Yes, I was on there a couple times.
But you're still one of my, even now a decade past you working at Wizard, you're still one of my all-time favorite designers. And
that's the sweetest thing I can possibly imagine. I am very honored by that. Feels weird at this point, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah, well, my guest today, Shawn Elizabeth Main, once upon a time designer at Wizard of the Coast, winner or second place at the Great Designer
Second place.
2?
Yep.
Two. And like there was Ken Nagel as one, and then it was Ethan, and then it was Ari,
yep. Alexis actually won the original one. Ken Nagel.
Oh, Alexis.
Yeah, was the second place finisher.
Alexis is also very cool. I've had great conversation with her. But yeah, Shawn Elizabeth, who is paired up with Ethan. Both of you ended up being two of my favorite people at Wizards. And just like design sensibility wise, and in terms of just like, I'm like, oh, it's a set from these folks. I know I'm going to have a good time. And it has never let me down. So I'm so grateful that we finally get a chance to actually hang out and talk. Even though I feel like we meet regularly whenever you're in town for GDC or whatever, but
but I feel like before this last GDC, we hadn't talked in quite a while.
Yeah, actually, it had been like years.
Obviously,
you had
whole time warp of. I did the last time before.
You know, I don't mean to drag that out. Every trans person I've ever known has always had the God's glorious beard, and then I'm like, you know what? If that is the sacrifice we have to make in order for you to be your best self, I guess that's just. Not
to get into all the trans talk of it, but like, you know, it's in the telling things from the before times. Like the only feature I really like enjoyed about myself was my very spiky eyebrows.
Yeah, you had cool eyebrows.
And they just stood up and were dramatic. And when I first, started transitioning a lot, or like an old owl or something,
yes.
People kept asking, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my eyebrows, but estrogen just softens your hair. And without doing anything, my eyebrows look very different now.
They do. I mean, I don't mean to drag it out. I'm like, you do look different than we used to, but who cares? We've been friends for a very long time. I'm very happy that, like, whenever my friends transition, I'm always really happy about it. I'm like, look, you went from being sort of pseudo sad and kind of confused about yourself to now being great. And I'm like, I love that for you. I love that for us. And given how, like, there's a joke that if you go to a CDH pod, which is, competitive Commander, and you sit down there, there's going to be 3 trans people at the pod and a 4th person who will be trans. And you're just like, one of you is the egg. You will figure that out later. It is on the stack, though, so just figure that one out.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's wild. It turns out the lockdown period left a lot of people in a room with themselves, and that changes things.
That is my story exactly.
So gosh, it's so good to see you, and I'm really excited because for those of you who are like my younger listeners who might not remember the golden age of what I consider my favorite time of Magic, dude, I had a guest on who started playing with Phyrexia All Will Be One, which was like last year.
I I feel like
And
I
I'm
know
like,
so many people who's like, I started playing in middle school, and it's like, I started playing in middle school.
right.
I guarantee you started 10, 20 years after I did.
Yeah, it's kind of like, hey, I started playing in middle school. Yeah, my middle school was in 1994. Oh, my
Uh-huh,
parents
uh-huh,
hadn't met yet. I'm like,
uh-huh.
Jesus Christ.
Back when I
Oh my
was
God.
at Wizards 8, 9, probably even 10 years ago, there was some like exhibit that we were doing some like spell slinging at, and some like middle school students came and they were like, "Oh yeah, we have these really powerful cards we got from our grandfather."
Oh,
And
Jesus
it
Christ.
was like, ah. And those kids, mind you, probably have graduated high school at this point.
Well, I mean, I look at Chris Mooney and I'm like, Mooney is younger than Magic.
Yeah,
And is like
yeah,
lead designing sets. I'm like, that's not allowed.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not allowed to be younger than Magic. How is that possible?
And how many games is that true for? There's so
Right?
few games that have
Like,
lasted this long. I mean, there's like D&D and these other like, things,
sure.
but
Yeah, like, but you don't hear. I mean, like, I guess like Legend of Zelda. Maybe there. I'm sure they're like fighting games or some
there's a
Japanese RPG
handful,
series
but it's
where people
so
are like, "Oh yeah,
so
I grew
rare.
up playing this thing and now I designed for it." But it's weird when it's a game I play. Yeah, because like, I mean, it's funny I say that because just today I finally got an original Legends Palladium Moors Elder Dragon,
Aw.
which I had been, I had, yeah, Palladium Wars. Because I had been, when I was a kid, I had like all 5 Elder Dragons, and obviously I'd always wanted to get the original Legend ones. But that was hard to do when you're 12. And now I have money and time, so I can just buy things. And my store had one, and I was like, that. And they're like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, shut up, child. Give me my dragon.
Let
Like,
me
I did
tell
not.
you about the old days.
Yeah. Let me tell you what EDH stands for.
And how excited we were about this very mediocre card.
Look, it costs 8 mana and you have to pay an upkeep every turn. But
What are
in
you
like,
gonna do? It's so big.
it's a 7/7. It flies. You gonna block with your script sprites? No, you're not.
Was
Okay,
that the
maybe you
one
are.
with Rampage? I don't remember which.
What
I get the
did?
different ones other than Bolas mixed up.
Palladium Morris was flying and trample.
Okay, nice and simple.
It's the Jund one. It's just like,
Okay.
wait, was it Jund or Naya? God, this is back when the white mana symbol was different. Um, God, that's how old I am. Like, yeah, you remember the white mana symbol was different?
I think
Yeah,
about the
Palladium
cap
Wars was,
symbol when you used to have, the little
yeah, this
T
was the
on its
slanty
side.
T.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this was just 7/7 flying trample because sometimes they just realize, hey, punching
Because
people
nothing
wins.
was that big. Yeah.
Yeah, like what are you going to block with? It doesn't matter. I'm bigger than you. Yeah. Anyways, and once I
Now,
berserk, you're
now
just
that we've
dead.
established we're old.
So, well, I guess that's a good transition point. How did you discover Magic? Because obviously you had to get to a point to try out for the contest to get into Wizards in the first place.
So I
You grew up in like Egypt, didn't you?
I did. I grew up in Cairo. I was a third culture kid in Cairo for most of my childhood in a little expat community there. So my first exposure to magic was Dragon Magazine issue number 200.
Wow.
And there was a review of magic in some like board game RPG review section. I didn't couldn't access the cards, so I made up my own little game that was what the review was describing. I never played this game, but I had like the concept, but it was like you had a little map and you were running around collecting ingredients and you had a long list of spells you
This
could
sounds
cast with the
awesome.
different ingredients. It was a cute idea.
I mean, I want to play a game where okay, look, I've put 300 hours into Fantasy Life, which is literally I run around and collect ingredients and make spells. It
there
is
you
what
go.
would happen if Animal Crossing and Breath of the Wild had a child.
Oh,
It
that
is
sounds really cool.
it is phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, so like whatever that game that you reverse engineered from a Magic the Gathering review, you should make, because that sounds like something I would play the hell out of.
And then that summer, bought a couple starter decks, got into it, made some
Were you
friends
back in the
in.
States at that point, or were you
Yeah,
still?
often my without going into my whole
Yeah.
history, there was like 2 years when we were back in the US, before uh, my father got a different job in Cairo
Sure.
and we went back. So,
Mm,
and at that point he was a professor and my mom was a teacher. So we had summers off to like often
that
come
makes
back
sense.
to the US.
Sure.
But at that point in middle school, made friends through playing Magic together. There was the one high school teacher who was the one who ran tournaments on the weekend, and so is a big part of those like those early years. And we would often actually play like big 5-player games, and there was a
Mm,
lot of like uh the the politicking of the pestilence was a key part of those
yes.
games, because one person could just like end the
Wipe the
game
table.
and wipe the
Right.
table. Yeah, exactly. And then I mean, I'm gonna neatly slide here into conspiracy talk.
Yeah.
Uh
Shawn Main developed Conspiracy, which is my all-time favorite Magic product, all-time favorite, period, forever.
that is
I will
so
just say,
sweet.
I mean, for years I used to have this rule where I would call it I now call it Monarch in the middle, where you just play a game of Commander and you just start with Monarch in the center. I used to call it the Shawn Main Memorial Monarch in the middle, and you got mad at me and said,
Oh.
"I'm not dead. Please stop saying that."
At
And
this
I'm like,
point, I think
"Fuck."
that's very sweet, but yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm relatively removed from Magic at this point. I mean, I still play
Yeah.
Commander a little bit, but
But
I'm
yeah.
yeah. Um. Uh. The so later, after I went to. I'm giving you my whole backstory here. I'm
That's
sorry.
the point.
I'm
That's what this show is
okay.
about.
Great. I went to college for theater. Really didn't like do as much with like magic or games. Um, but moved to New York afterwards. Was often building not quite cubes, although that kind of like what I was calling draft sets at the time, that were
Mm,
kind of doing just like um various experiments with like drafting. I had friends who really liked Winston draft, but my friends also really liked like we all wanted to play multiplayer all the time. We really had
mm.
very little sense of like playing one on one as like a key thing, unless there were just two of us and then we would Winston draft or something. Um
I think people don't understand how much of early casual games of Magic were really like groups of 3 to 12 people in a hallway at school playing enormous multiplayer games of Magic.
1,000% agree. It
Like,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Because I mean, you just if you've got four people, why are you not hanging out together in a group of four people?
Right.
I'm going to go
We've all
off
had
with
decks.
you, and the two of them are going to go off in the other room. That's so weird. Let's just sit down at a table with the four of us.
Yeah, seriously. And it's just like it's more fun that way. You're like, "Look,
Yeah.
I know I can beat you, but can I beat you and you and you?" It's like, because
we would play and have no sense though of
oh
that,
yeah.
of like of your aggro mono red deck would be in there, and like it's not gonna
No,
win, but that's okay.
can I tell you a story of my favorite a game that has just been
Please.
seared into my memory for like my entire life? I was playing Magic senior year of high school, and we're sitting there. One of the dudes in my group, he is a guy who has gone who got a scholarship to college from the pro tour. Basically, like he was on the junior pro tour, he got a scholarship, and well, no, I was a junior. He would have been a senior at that time, and we were all sitting there playing like the enormous game of Magic, and he had while we were all playing our standard, like all the colors I own deck, he
Hmm.
had this combo deck, which was like it used 4 cards. It used Ashnod's Altar. Um, there's a stupid card from Ice Age where you would play. Well, you use Ornithopter, Ashnodalter, this white card from Ice Age where you would play
During
with your hand
renewal?
revealed.
Oh, no.
And if you had a creature that went from play to the graveyard, it would come back to your hand.
Oh,
And
enduring renewal, I
yeah,
think.
enduring
Yeah.
renewal. So you basically would sit there and cycle his Ornithopter 12 billion times to make infinite mana, and then he fireballed the whole table. And I was like, and he killed everybody except for me because I had reverse polarity or reverse damage or one of those cards in hand. And it was just like, I gained 1 billion life. I'm gonna kill you, my mom. What did you? It was the greatest game I've ever played. I've been searching for that high my whole life. But yeah, that was, I think, the thing about the conspiracy sets that really appealed to me is that it felt like Magic did when I was a child.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, because I play Commander because Commander is also one of those things where it's like, oh look, I can use Soul Ring, I can play all the cards I played as a kid, whatever. But that 100 cards and 40 life and all these other things that go along with Commander, all the power and stuff, it's not the same as when you draft a pile of garbage from a conspiracy draft.
The garbage, yep.
Well, because the way I do, at my birthday every year, we do conspiracy draft. And what we would do is we would have 2 packs of conspiracy and 1 pack of my chaos box.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it would be
that.
Here, we're drafting Ice Age, or we're drafting Prophecy, or we're drafting whatever random booster pack I have sitting around that we integrate into the conspiracy deck. And so you would be playing decks that, and you had card choices that you made for conspiracy that were so perfect, like Siphon Soul or whatever the hell, random cards that are just perfect for multiplayer that existed in 1993 and nobody cared about or thought about and aren't good enough for Commander, but are at the power level that we played at when we were 15 and didn't know better. So you really get that sensation of, I am using all the cards I own that are cool, plus the 1 chase card that I opened in this pack, and we're going to go and punch each other like we're in high school. And no, the only other Magic that's come close to that has been the mystery booster product, which is basically I throw all the cards I own into a trash bag, shake them up, and pull a deck out. So that's why I was it really is genuinely I don't think that anything has captured the flavor of what got me into Magic the way that Conspiracy had.
Oh,
and so that's
really beautiful.
Also, I want to show you this. This is a Disney animator who followed me on Twitter, drew me a Monarch token, which is Goofy painted to look like a king.
Oh my god, that's amazing!
It is sick. It is absolutely the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
I was gonna look around because I have. It's downstairs. I had when Conspiracy 2 came out, we bought these little plastic tiaras, and for a long time, I mean, I still for years was anytime we played, it was okay, you've got to put on the little plastic tiara that barely fit anyone's head, and a lot of them cracked along the way, but I still have at least one downstairs from it.
I've used Burger King crowns. The professor, when he had us over to do conspiracy or some kind of monarch type mechanic, he had an actual 3D printed crown that
nice.
I mean, people have used every kind of cool. I have this. What I use is my Monarch token. I've got this metal coin that was stamped during some fan made this set of tokens that look like cartouches for Amonkhet, and they did a Monarch token that's got a crown on one side that looks European or a crown on the other side that looks Asiatic or something, and it's sick, it's cool, and I'm like,
that's
Monarch,
awesome.
bam.
Yeah.
Monarch might be one of my favorite mechanics of all time.
It's a very good mechanic.
It is so perfect for multiplayer games, and Initiative, I like it a lot, but it's also not. It's what if we took Monarch and then just crufted it and just wrecked it?
I mean, I think it's a very cool mechanic too, but it's crossing the streams with 2 mechanics that were doing very different jobs, and I really enjoy Enter the Dungeon. But I mean, I think it was doing a good job at being a Monarch type mechanic and telling its own story, but I mean, Monarch is a very elegant solution where it's a
Yes.
very like complex solution. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you've ever played a commander game where it's got plane chase and monarch and initiative going at the same time, then you know what pain is.
So I really don't want to pull back to like, you know, my origin
I do.
story
I want to know
more.
about
Okay.
you. I don't care about me.
Well, you mentioned plane chase because
One of my
that was
favorite ways to play.
actually it was the other thing we played a lot in my play group back then was um because we were playing a lot of multiplayer and like we would totally embrace the chaos of it. We were there to hang out. You know, you flip over a card if it blows up all your creatures or suddenly like completely warps the game.
Yeah.
Great. That was like we're there to hang out and like that was fine.
It's so
Um
much fun.
and most of my friends really there was like a couple who had decks of their own, but really we got into drafting partly because a lot of people also didn't have decks and things. And I was fascinated by drafting and like, you know, the added layer of chaos, but ended up developing like a cube for multiplayer for use in these big plane chase games. And then fast forward to, you know, great designer search happens. I join Wizards fairly early.
So whoa. Let's not
Okay,
skip
no,
over that because that's a
sorry.
big deal, dude.
I know I am now jumping into conspiracy, but okay.
But like what was the
origins,
GDS was huge. So for those of you who don't know, Wizards has now 3 times done this big, huge contest where they're like, we need more designers. We know where to get developers. We can get them off the Pro Tour. It'll just be all Randy Bueller clones. It'll be fine. And then designers, though, and the difference between design and development is always a little tricky, but like designers are the people like, what if we had a set that did these things? And developers like, here are the cards that would go in that set. Effectively at the most simple level. But like the GDS was this insane reality show style contest that went on for like months, had a crazy quiz to even enter, and then like you had like design challenges, and it was like it ended up being like some of the best designers of Wizards have come out of there.
So the for 2 specifically, they were very much looking for people who could design, be like a lead, holistically design sets. We had this crazy element. I don't know if you remember. That was like there was a wiki where we had to solicit
Yes.
card designs, and it was the wiki itself was infuriating, but that community management aspect of like leading a team of strangers across the world was pretty cool. And like I met some very good friends, you know, through that competition.
Yeah.
And I think Ethan and I did very well because we came from like artsy backgrounds, him like animation, me theater, and so we were used to getting like critiques from like teachers.
Sure.
And like great, you get a critique, you adapt a little bit, you take feedback, and I think some of the others had more trouble with that. But I was like, okay, I get the new challenge, I'm gonna like post something on the to like get people thinking like that night, because I don't want to like not have, you know, I don't want the team of these people across the world to not be like have like an assignment to like do. And I think how many of us from that, because we cut to the top 8, but myself, Ethan, Scott were all hired from the top 3 eventually. Laux was there for a while.
Yeah, Laux, who ended up being one of the co-hosts of Limited Resources, and just created stuff that showed up finally in Ixalan now with the caves.
Yeah, he had some very creative designs, but was at Wizards for a while as well.
Yeah,
there were at least 2 others. I'm blanking on. I should
let's
know
see. So
everything.
who else? I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
So let's see. There's Ethan, you, Max McCall, Billy Moreno.
Okay. Well, they weren't finalists, but they
weren't finalists, but they definitely participated in the wiki program and ended up. And then Dan Emmons,
Yeah,
Let's
Dan
see
Emmons was he helped with my stuff. He was like someone I met beforehand because he lived nearby where I
handy.
was living at the time.
Let's see. There was Devin Rule, Laux, Jonathan
Devin Rules,
Woodward.
good people. I don't think he or Woodward ever joined.
Yeah, and
Or
then I'm just thinking. I'm reading the people:
Treat.
Scott Van Essen, you, Laux, and Ethan.
Yeah.
And
Okay. I was.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
and Jay Treat and
Yeah.
Daniel Williams. Yeah, so
Yeah.
those are all the people who were in there. But yeah, there were 8 people
Daniel.
in this show.
Yeah. Um, all lovely human beings. Actually, I guess I never met Daniel Williams, but everyone else I've met, and um,
Mm.
so it kind of, yeah, it was regular challenges. We had the wiki to maintain, and then there were things like design. We were trying to build around a specific setting, design all the commons of one color, design a couple promo cards for like you were doing a preview article. um
Yeah, I
it,
think what the final was like, you guys had to remake Steam Flogger Boss or something.
So in the very end, it was each time it would eliminate one person, and then the final 3 was me, Ethan, and Scott. We got flown out for like in-person interviews,
Yeah, because
and
it's actually a job on top of that.
exactly, and I did terrible at interviewing for it. I'm amazed I ever did get hired because I really was terrible and had no clue how to. I could do the like design challenges, but then like tell us about, your background, or even simple questions would come up in some of the interviews, like talk to us about how the game uses flavor text, and I was like, I don't, that's not a thing I'm thinking about at all. That was one of like literally asking like, what is a flavor text that like impacted you, and I drew a
And you're like,
total
you mean
blank.
all the stuff that takes up the room that I could be writing rules with?
I mean, today I think of myself as a very like flavor first designer, but at that point it was not at all. So,
That's
yeah,
so funny. But I mean, fast forwarding a bit, I know that when you and Ethan got hired, Rosewater has said many times that you got put onto the like a vision team to try to figure out how to make Tarkir work, right? Not, yeah, it
yeah.
was Cons
Ethan
of
and I
Tarkir.
started at the same time, and we were on the first day. It was very exciting. We were shown that some of our mechanics from the competition were in Gate Crash, which was very cool.
Oh wow,
Um,
Gate Crash.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was so fun.
Battalion and
Evolve.
yes, yes. Um, but we were also sat down and told like, okay, there's this set that's coming way down the road, and here's all we know. You draft the big set alone, then you draft the big set with the little set, then there's a new big set, and you draft the new big set with the little set.
That's
And that was
like,
what we were given.
it's wild. Like when you think about it now, the idea of cons and dragons and having the Fate Reforged pivot set just seems so logical. But if that doesn't exist, getting to that point must have been just enormously challenging.
We pitched a lot of things. I think Ethan pitched the time travel one. I had one that was like a journey motif where like you're in
The
one
boat.
plane. Um yes. Oh, did you just freeze? Oh, no. Okay.
Don't worry about it. Sometimes the video freezes, but it records on both sides.
Great. So it was, yeah, like you're on a plane, and then it's like the vessel they all get on to like go to the new place, and then it's a new plane, something like that.
That's a cool idea.
But I mean, time travel is just like such a fun tropey thing to use, and
It ended up
morph.
being so cool.
Except morph was the mechanic we were kind of building everything around, and I don't think. I mean, we didn't start from what became Megamorph, but that was where we ended up. So
You know, Morph is one of my all-time favorite mechanics,
morph is an
and I
amazing
think
mechanic.
it worked really well in cons. I think the biggest problem with Megamorph was not the mechanic. The mechanic itself was fine and fun and super great. It was the fact that it was hyped up to be a totally different way to morph. Like you're like, oh my god, time is changing. We've got Manifest, Manifest was so incredible because it sets up this idea of like, ooh, we know what protomorph looks like, and it made sense thematically and physically. Like, yeah, of course, this is morph, this is protomorph. What is the other morph? And it's like, it's megamorph, and I'm like, okay, the name is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then it's literally just morph with a token. We've got to be able to do something cooler than that. And it turned out it's very hard to come up with a better morph.
It is. I also feel like, I don't know your listeners, your viewers, if they have a sense of like the expansiveness of all of Magic history as we're jumping around from like, let's talk about Legends to now let's talk about the intricacies of
they've had 300
block.
episodes to get used to me.
Great.
I have
Okay.
ADHD. This is just the
I
game
do
we play.
too. So okay.
That's why I try to keep it a little linear to your life, because I'm like, that's a focus I can drag us back to. But like, but I mean, look, real talk. You have done so many things that I have loved so deeply that I've got a lot of things I want to talk to you about. I've been building up for a long time.
This is a total asterisk, but it's in my head, so I need to get it out now. I'm here in the studio for the company. I'm working with some friends.
Yeah, feel free to talk about that too.
I will, but let's not get too far away. But it is on the subject of ADHD. Our studio is called Cursed Magic, which actually had no relation to Magic the Game. Surprisingly, is a subtle, not so subtle reference to the fact that we all have ADHD, and that is a bonding point for me and my two co-founders. So, and we're telling a story that is at its core an ADHD story, but I'm happy to talk about that after.
Oh yeah, dude, we totally will. We totally will. But yeah, so like cons, that's so cool, and it ended up being so cool.
Let me jump in and tell you how we first were going to do.
Yes.
The third set was going to have a morphs that became auras when you unmorphed them.
Oh my god.
And it's a very cool concept that runs into some problems in how it gets played that we discovered a little bit too late. The short version is,
seems like,
if in a world where you have a morph and I attack you, let's say I have two morphs and you've got one blocker. I attack you with them. It's a little bit of a question, like, do you block this one? Do you block that one? Or that's probably even the worst example. Like, I attack you with, like, I don't know, a morph and a 3/3, and you've got a 3/3. Who do you block? Oh, well, there's a guarantee over here. There's not over here. But imagine if it is flips over to become an aura. Well, it's never interesting because always you flop over to the other thing, so you don't have the dynamism of like, do I block or not?
Yeah, because like you're just going to enchant the thing I blocked and kill me with it.
And the most damage the face down thing can ever do to you is 2 damage. You know that to be true because it always has to jump onto something else. So that was unfortunately something we didn't realize.
That seems like, just logistically, like, I remember the old days of morph in like the first time around when it's like, okay, well, is this thing going to be like the 3/1 that kills my guy, or
soul read of like,
morph? I mean, I think what they ended up with cons and with dragons was fantastic. Obviously, cons are considered one of the best drafts of all time, because the morphs were so good. Right? You knew nobody was going to kill you before turn 5. Like, you can't unmorph them before turn 5, so it didn't matter. But God, drafting a 3-color set is really hard if you don't know how to do it.
Yes. I think that it is a great draft set for experienced drafters, and I've seen newer players absolutely struggle with it. But
because like when it came out, I was still very fresh into the idea of draft and sealed, because I'd only just come back to Magic in Innistrad, which was a couple years before that, and it was just like, oh, I don't understand I know how 2-color works. I know how 1-color works. What does the land base for a 3-color draft deck look like? How do I even map that? But I figured it out, and I mean, it ended up being just an all-timer. Okay, so goodness gracious, there's so much I want to ask you. Like, so you had already come in with this notion of like you've been designing draft formats and stuff for yourself at home already. How did you pitch the idea of doing a draft matters set? Because that seems like both a really easy sell, like, hey, look, we can sell infinite packs. They have to draft them anyways, and also like, how are you going to do this?
I mean, I like that you're assuming I had any sense of marketability of the thing. I absolutely did not. It was such a soft pitch, but I had this cube, plane chase multiplayer cube, which I'll also just mention was unsleeved because I didn't really sleeve decks or anything until I got to Wizards, and was pretty.
I believe the decks need to earn sleeves. I'm like, I'm not going to put the effort into putting 100 sleeves on you.
You would be shocked at the cards that were in there that I played for a long time unsleeved.
I assure you, I would not be.
Fair.
I played on the sidewalk, my friend. I know.
Yeah,
I remember.
But I invited Aaron Forsyth into a meeting just to like play test with him. You know, he was the boss, and kind of saying like, hey, is there something here? I actually initially was kind of thinking of like Magic Online had started doing some cube stuff, and at that point had like multiplayer, but the multiplayer was garbage. And you
say was, I say is.
I am afraid I have not touched. I did not know it even still supported it, but
no, the multiplayer on MidGo is a thing that you suffer through because you have to. But yes, continue, please.
But I mean, I was a very light pitch of just like, hey, is there something here? And simultaneously, Commander, the original Commander set, was coming out.
2011.
Ken Nagel had led that, and it was like, okay, there's like this real support for multiplayer happening.
You don't say.
And it was like, still, there was the plane chase, but like I kind of pitched it initially very kind of gently as like, well, maybe they're packs with like a plane in them. That was one of the initial concepts.
That would have been hot.
I still think that's a kind of cool idea, but I think like, conspiracies came from that initial idea and are a more elegant way of, working.
Yes, I also think conspiracies just work better. I have tried for a decade now to get conspiracies to work in Commander games. It is very hard.
It's very hard. I mean, conspiracies really are there for a draft format and are hard to like do anything else.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so for those of you guys who don't know, I'm just going to lay out the kind of broad strokes of what the deal with conspiracy was. So conspiracy was made to be a set where you guys sat and drafted in a pod of 8 and then split into 2 pods of 4 where you basically played multiplayer games with each other based on the decks you drafted. And it was a combination of like old school, super classic, like fantastic, just, multiplayer focused cards from the history of Magic up until that point, which is around Theros block. And then a whole mess of brand new cards that were entirely bizarre. One, like we just talked about, was the Conspiracy, which is this weird card you get, you draft it, and it sits on the side of your deck. And for instance, there's one called Unexpected Potential, which is a hidden agenda. It starts with this face down in your command zone, and you flip it over, and it says you can spend mana as owed any color to cast spells with the name that you chose when you drafted this card. So you would draft it, you would write a name on it, and write it flip down. And they were hella cool. There were some of them were like, your deck is now 5 cards less, or you have to play every card you drafted, or whatever. And they were so sick. And then you also had the really cool artifacts, or was that in the later one? Like
there were artifacts in the original.
Like Clockwork Librarian, for instance, which is a card that shows up in people's cubes even now is like one of the greatest cubes cards ever. A
Mm-hmm.
card that you draft, it says when you draft a card, you can draft an additional card from the booster as long as you put this card back into that booster. And it's like, it's so sick. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
and um, and then you also had mechanics that I love, like Parlay, where you attack, everybody flips over the top card of their library. For each non-land that happens, something happens. For each land that happens, something else happens. Then everybody draws that card. It was so cool. Like Selvala Explorer Returned, one of my favorite legends. And then Will of the Council, which was the voting one. Everybody gets a choice, and it's whoever has the most votes wins. Because I say that because I want to bring up this cool thing I've got in front of me, which is a proxy that somebody made for me of the council's judgment, except it is the SimCity 2, like one of the advisors from SimCity 2 who says, "You can't cut back our funding. You will regret this," which anybody who's ever played SimCity 2 knows that face and recognizes this. They basically went and turned council judgment into like your town
That's
council
amazing.
from SimCity, and it's one of my favorite proxies.
Oh,
Uh,
that's beautiful.
but yeah, I remember this set vividly because during Theros Block, you guys did the coolest promotion ever, which was this stealth thing with Magister of Worth, which went around the world and had a bunch of like weird codes and stuff on the back, and people had to figure out what the hell was going on. It was so
That
sick.
was beautiful because it was at the time when there were a couple like weird printing errors of future cards ending up in packs, and so it was like, well, we're gonna seed something that seems similar with this mysterious like multiplayer card. And believe it first, because I'm there obviously, like when this is happening, I'm obsessively following everything on the internet that day, because this is like the first big thing that I worked on, the first
Yeah,
thing that I led. And it was someplace in like Southeast Asia,
it was in like the Philippines.
in the Philippines, sounds right. That like it got opened in a store and people are talking about the card, and there's references to a serial number on the back of it, and
Mm-hmm.
no one really thinks anything about this number though until like an hour or two goes by and someone finally posts on some forum like the back of the card with this serial number, and people are like, that's a weird serial number, that's a phone number, that's a phone number with the area code of Renton, Washington. And then they call and there's a coded message, and so like, I'm there like pushing refresh like and it was then Cogwork Librarian in a the text of the card in a code, and people are then really confounded because the idea of like what that this
What the
is
hell is this? What's
referencing,
going on?
yeah, exactly, that it's referencing drafting. That's not a thing the game's ever done, and this other thing was obviously a multiplayer card. And so it was beautiful to watch because it got the perfect reactions.
It was so good.
It was, yeah.
I'm just like briefly scanning through Scryfall and looking at like the cards that came out of this set, and so many of them still see play. So many of them are absolutely beloved commander and multiplayer cards, like Marchesa the Black Rose. Come on, like one of the all timers. Grenzo, friggin' Dak Faden,
So,
Death Reap
so
Ritual, my secret favorite card.
I mean, the design of the set, there's not really like great stories about the design. We obviously were just like, how do we make like a multiplayer work? Let's
Yeah.
find things like a dethrone. Like, okay, here's a reason to attack
Oh man, Dethrone is so
someone.
Scourge of the Throne, the Mythic Dragon is
Oh,
so
I love
much
that card. That was
fun.
my preview card when I wrote the article
Yeah,
about.
like
Yeah.
that is one of I every time I draft that in like a mystery booster or like some limited format or something, it makes me happy. I love that card so much.
Um, one of the really fun things was we designed the set very agnostic of flavor.
Mm,
Um, we were not thinking about it creatively at all. I did Marchesa, like there was a singular notion I had of like, I really want like a assassin, like a dethrone assassin character. um I'm gonna, not that anyone's gonna be surprised that I'm very nerdy, but she was named Vera after an Oscar Wilde play about nihilist assassins. The playtest name, yeah. But there was a real question of like the creative team, like as they started working, were like, how the hell do you, what do you want us to skin this as? What
Yeah,
are
that's
these
probably a fair
conspiracies
question.
even? Like maybe they're blueprints. Maybe it's like this big battle royale setting where you're all like representing the like fighting, and I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think it's much more like like we want the politics of it. And Adam, I'm blanking on his last name, like
Prozac?
no, on the creative team, he was a
Oh,
writer. I should know it, I'm blanking. Anyway,
it's okay.
he was the creative lead, and was like, let me come watch a playtest. Watched us play for like an hour, um, and then like sat quietly. He's super like nice, gentle dude. Watches for an hour and is like, gets up to leave, and we're like, "Oh, do you want to talk about anything?" And he's like, "No, no, I'm good." And then the next day, it's like, okay, so it's steampunk, and it's like the Renaissance
Renaissance.
Italy, and you've got this backstabbing factions, and let's work on some legends, so you get all these different characters representing the different factions, and it's like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is beautiful, and like makes it seem like this integrated setting when we had zero sense of flavor to any element of it. Yeah.
The lead up of the set when you've got like Brago the king, and
Mhm,
then like
mhm.
especially in Conspiracy 2 when Kaya comes and assassinates Brago, and it's like what? But like for me, what got me was that Edric, who was one of the beloved original characters from Commander 2011, a dude from a plane without a plane, and suddenly here's the plane Edric is from, and you're like, oh crap.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
that's
this
one of the really fun things about like having these elements that don't have a home at first is it's I think
finding that home later, right? It's
the
so
creative
sick.
director described it as like throwing a football to yourself in the future, because it's like someday we'll figure out what this means, and you get cool moments where like, oh, now here's a context where it makes sense, and you get to like feel so clever that you seeded something like that. Yeah.
It's so good. It's just like that set was so perfect. It was so
Aw.
perfect, and it was
I
so
don't
much
think it's
fun.
so perfect. The last time
Sure.
I played it, I'm like, this is such a slow, weird format.
Yeah, they're
Nothing's
definitely
bigger than a 3-3.
there
But
there are
that's okay.
definitely choices, like, maybe I would have less vanilla creatures, I would maybe have there's some choices in there I
Hindsight,
would
I
make
mean,
differently.
now with all of the knowledge and the conspiracy too, like,
Yeah.
yeah, we could do it better today. If
Sure, but you
some,
had things like Infectious Horror, which was like, an old school classic 2/2 that nugs the
yeah,
table, right? Like, that's so
yeah.
good. I mean, the fact that Siphon Soul, which is like just one of my all-time old school favorite cards, doing 2 damage to everybody and you gain all that. And I'm like, yes, this is the game I want to play. I don't know, it made me happy. And there's so
Aw,
many good cards that were in this set, and it's just like, what a home run of a set, man. It's like,
aw.
oh god, it's so good. Um, Conspiracy 2, I loved a lot, but I think you got shafted really, really badly by the fact that they put it between friggin' like shadows. Like, think about what that release schedule was. There was like uh
Oh,
Eldritch
I
Moon,
know.
yeah, Eternal Masters, Eldritch Moon, and then like they shove Conspiracy in there like a week after, and then like a week after that is like friggin' Kaladesh, and you're like, this set is going to die. Nobody's gonna buy this. Are you kidding?
I,
We're all
I
spent our money
mean,
buying
today
from the
this
vault.
is like what Magic is doing constantly, where it's like always preview season. But at the time, it wasn't that way. And for
It's so
Conspiracy
quaint to
2,
think about the complaints we were making then. Like, oh
like
child, if only you
I
knew.
definitely found it very frustrating as working on the set, that like we went into previews for something else the
Yeah,
weekend, the day after it released. Like, yeah, it's
but I mean, you designed a Conspiracy too, though, right?
yeah. So the story of Conspiracy 2 is not quite as dramatic. Of like Conspiracy 1 comes out, it's a modest success. It's
It was a
um
slow burn. People have come around to it, but it took a while.
yeah, it was a weird set. I loved working on it, but it was not Commander or something that was like or a mainline release.
Right.
And there was supposed to be the next unset coming out in whatever period of time, and it got pushed back. And I got approached shortly after Conspiracy came out of like, would you want to do a second one? And I'm like, hell yeah, I would love to do a second one. And at that point,
the unset that got pushed back was Unstable, which ended up being like the best unset of all time. So
it definitely worked out. But the like at that point, having like the setting, having a little bit of a better sense, I think a lot of things worked better in the second one, but I think there's like the voting mechanic in the first one was stronger. The Dethrone, we didn't want to just reprint because but we were looking for something that was like
similar.
Hey, the game is very complex. Do you want to read everyone's board? Casual player, let's give you a reason to pick one target. And that was like the criteria of like, then, oh, well, what if we have something that's a target that floats around and different people can have? That became the Monarch, which is like,
I heard, didn't you guys originally design Monarch for like for Ixalan or something like
that? No. I am making faces because Mark tells a slightly different story of.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Well, no. Sorry. Let me put this fully fairly. We designed it for Conspiracy 2, and simultaneously, while work was going on there, Ixalan was in early stages, and Mark really wanted something like it. He kept comparing it to the Edge from the original Vampire game. I don't know that as well, but I was on that team. I was like the strong second or whatever there, and so it was like literally, hey, you go off to like see if we could make this work for Ixalan, and where I will disagree, Mark holds some degree, I think, of animosity is too strong a word, but a little bit of like sadness, annoyance that Conspiracy 2 got the Monarch. I will state pretty strongly it's a multiplayer mechanic and will do better in a multiplayer set.
Okay.
Than
Monarch is one of the best multiplayer mechanics of all time. It would be an app. It had shown itself to be one of the worst single player mechanics of all time because it shows up all the time in Pauper, and it shows up in Vintage, and it shows up in Cubes, and places where it does not belong, and it ends up just being a hideously unbalanced format. And like freaking Palace Jailer, who's just such an absurd card. Perfectly good in multiplayer.
I'll give the asterisk of like it wouldn't have been like an identical mechanic, but that notion of you or I have the thing, we can't both have the thing fundamentally. Like I think there's a workable version.
It's
but
like
I do
the Imperial Favor from Legend of the Five Rings or something like that. If you ever played that,
I have played it like once, so I don't know
it's
it
okay.
deeply.
Don't worry
but
about
it. Anyway. Yes, Monarch was, I think, a hugely successful part of 2. And I actually think the other element of Conspiracy 2 that really worked was at that point, we had the setting. And so I was like, well, this should feel like you went from season 1 of Game of Thrones to season 3. And so we see alliances change and we see all the machinations of like characters.
And they all feel like they belong in a place. They have weight to them.
And I think that was another part that like really worked out well, was to then have the setting that we got to lean on a little bit. Yeah.
I will say this, and I have one bone to pick with you. Leovold, Emissary of Trest, literally the worst card of all time. Maybe the most miserable card ever printed.
Yeah.
I hate that card.
I do not like to throw things at developers, but I really didn't have anything to do with that card.
Yeah, no, I know exactly who did, and I've brought it up with them before, but I'm just telling you, 10 years or whatever later, that card still sucks, and I hate it. And getting it banned from Commander is one thing I'm very proud of. Oh my god, dude! Like I sat down at a table, and this is where I learned what Rule Zero and discussions are. I sat down at a table with my Tajik deck, which is my like just simple soldiers deck. It's just whatever, garbage cards that make soldiers. And somebody sits down and he's got a Leovold deck, and he just immediately like wheel locking us out of the game. And I'm like, oh, I don't get to do anything ever again. Oh, this sucks. Why are we doing this? But yeah. Anyways, that's my one beef. I don't know. I think this set just Conspiracy 1, Conspiracy 2, and Battlebond are like, and I know that was a Gavin set, not a Shawn set, but like
no, that was a me set.
Was it? You were
I was the lead designer,
too?
and I pitched it. Gavin was the lead developer.
Oh well, Battlebond. There, look, audience. I told you. If it's a main set, then it's a set that I am going to adore. It is just de facto truth. Battlebond was one of the funnest things ever, and the fact that we're like most likely never getting a Battlebond 2 just
that
grates at me. Because it was so good. God damn, dude. Drafting as a team and taking, I mean, it was so unique and different, and the cards were so interesting, and partner, like the fact that it was
I am so proud of. Yep.
Partner with, as opposed to just independent, free floating partner. Partner with is one of the best things ever. Mm-hmm. Partner by itself is a thing that destroyed Commander. That being said, god damn, Battlebond is a good set.
That is, I am super proud of Battlebond as well. Definitely, like those three are like the sets that I am most proud of from my 6 years at Wizards. And Battlebond was it was interesting. There's this very specific memory I have of Cynthia Shepard working on the set, and she was like, this is so much more fun. She was art director at the time, and she was like, it's so much more fun to work on this because it's this little project off to the side, and I don't have a million stakeholders telling me what to do. We can kind of just do what we want. And I'm like, yeah, these are the fun things to work on. And that's where I lived. And Battlebond was a blast. And yeah, it was I had left Wizards by the time it released. But so it was like there were things that were in packs that I didn't know about, which was a very exciting thing to like experience from the outside. But we had all the kind of core bones of it, the experience, and
it was just design. So much. I mean, aside from Nagila, which ended up just being a utterly broken commander, I have had such
need to look up that name.
Nagila is the 3/2 warrior lady who said whenever a warrior attacks, you may have its controller create another 1/1 white warrior, and you can play Wooburg and untap all your creatures, and they get a bunch of stuff in another combat. It is insanely broken. It wins a game. If you can play a game of Nagila and 99 Mountains and win by herself, like she is maybe one of the most broken commanders ever printed. But like one of my favorite cards ever, Generous Patron was in there. That's the one that like when you sprinkle counters around, you draw cards. And like Grothama, the one that like it's like the pinata worm that it dies and you draw cards equal to the damage of it. There were so many weird designs in this set. And it was weird and it was fun. And there was just, I think the idea of drafting as a team was so cool. And it was such a natural evolution of Conspiracy. And I don't know. There's something about these, like, I'm just looking at the sets that you've led, and I'm like, oh yeah, look, it's literally all the things I love. And then Eldritch Moon.
I didn't wait. I didn't lead Eldritch Moon.
No, but you worked on Eldritch Moon. No, but you led Origins. Origins, one of my all-time favorite core sets.
Now you're buttering me up. But
Origins has like one of my favorite cards of all time. The card that I took my friggin' screen name from, Girapuri Gears, comes from Girapur Gearcrafter, which is dude that brings a friend. And I was like, oh my god, it's a card that looks like me if I shave. And it was like the first time I could ever say that in Magic, right? Like that was a big deal to me. And so like that card has just been, and dude brings a friend is like one of my all-time favorite just card archetypes of just like, I put a creature in play and it brings a token along, and I'm like, I love everything that's happening here. And Origins had a lot of dude brings a friend, like Dwynen's Elite, one of my all-time favorite cards, an elf that brings a second elf. You led So wait, you were going to like? I remember you and Ethan were originally you were going to lead Amonkhet, and Ethan was going to lead Kaladesh, and then they got flipped, right?
Yes,
Because it
I
would have made sense
forget
for the
the
person who lived in
full.
Egypt to have done the Egyptian.
I had originally, we did like a retreat that we people were pitching all kinds of things, and one of them I pitched like there was kind of this persistent narrative that Egypt wasn't a deep enough set of mythology to kind of build a setting around, and I was like, no, I really believe it is, and like loudly kind of talked about, I think we can do an Egypt set pretty successfully. There's all kinds of crazy chimera creatures that we can use to fill out like the things a magic set needs. The setting kind of evolved a lot as the Bolas arc got in, became so
Yeah.
central to its identity. But yes, I had originally kind of pitched the setting, but purely as like, let's go to ancient Egypt world. And but then some, I do not remember the reasons, whatever scheduling
Yeah.
things
There was some
rearranged
scheduling
us.
thing that
Yeah.
just ended up flipping you guys for whatever reason.
Yep.
So let's talk about the elephant in this room here, the sacred elephant. I will say this right now: Kaladesh is mechanically one of my all-time favorite sets. Right, like it is everything. I mean, there was the whole fabricate mechanic, which was literally dude brings a friend, the mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
It's either get a token or get a counter. What else do I want in life? That is literally everything I love. And it just ended up being one of the funnest sets I've ever played. I deeply, deeply adore the setting, but obviously I had a lot of cultural concerns and issues. And I remember we talked a lot about that at the time for years and years. And I'm very proud that I managed to get them to change the plane name to Avishkar so that it's instead of being world of dark people, now it's like land of brightness and invention. And I'm like, that's what it should have been in the first place. But the set ruled.
I
have mixed feelings. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, no, and I do too. And I'll come at it from a slightly different angle, and I think like I'm
removed
wary.
enough.
Well, it's tricky because like on the one hand, like I was deeply involved in the set. I was not like leading the development of the setting and like the world building. So I don't want to speak for them, but I also, I'm aware I'm a white person and I don't want to like,
no, and obviously I'm not putting any of this at your feet. I know how I know how cards are made. You just make the words on them. Somebody else is putting the pictures. That's
the thing that I think that's the I'm going to say that might sound like I'm treading on dangerous ground. I don't think it's actually dangerous ground, but it's treading like is and I'm sure you know this, but like the original conception was just like, okay, we want to do steampunk. Okay, we want to do a positive steampunk.
Yes.
We want to do a positive steampunk, and let's not make it traditional like a bunch of British imperialist steampunk.
Yes.
And that got us to let's go someplace else in the world. And it was not there was not the concept internally because of the era. Sorry, there's cats fighting behind me. Actually, I'm gonna pin that. Let's jump back in time a little bit to Tarkir block. It was something that required some active work that we were going to do a Pan-Asian setting and convincing of executives that we were not going to have a whole bunch of white people in this setting. And that required a little bit of convincing of the top people in the company at the time. And so there was like a lot of, I think, really well-meaning work from the creative team that wanted to be more expansive, wanted to bring in diversity, and there was like the company was not set up to like embrace that. And the push of like, we want to go to bring this to India, was like, okay, we want to embrace a little bit more sense of like, this isn't just British white people running around in like top hats. And I think that was a good instinct, but it was well before cultural consultants or having like bringing like coming from this place of authenticity with that decision.
See,
and so
like,
there were a lot of missteps. Yeah.
I remember talking to Jeremy Jarvis about this extensively over time, and it was like they had overcorrected. They had gone so far into the like, we don't want to possibly offend anybody, so we're just going to take this random like piece of jewelry and design this whole set based off of the motifs we find there or whatever it is. And they had overcorrected so hard into the caution that they ended up stripping any of the actual flavor and vibrancy out of the setting. And what you ended up with was Rebel Without a Cause set in Central California, but with brown people. So it's basically Silicon Valley, the set, right? And that was like, as a lifelong Magic fan who'd been waiting his whole life for a setting with me in it, it was super disappointing. But, and I say this with great pride, that my disappointment and my being very loud about it and like just bitching about it forever and ever woke people up enough to make it so that later sets got actual cultural consultancy, got representation, like the development of Kaya, the character. They had brought in people to help create her and help make her into an authentic, real character. Ixalan, other sets that came down the line actually got, you know, like even when we went back to Kaladesh later, they called me. They literally called me and said like, hey, we know you had opinions the last time. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, what would you like to see instead? And I'm like, let me tell you, brother. Like, sit down. This is going to be a long one. But it was, I think, like there's an old saying that not very culturally sensitive, but it's one that really fits here, which is the person who's jumping into the jungle first and cutting down all the vines is going to get stabbed and shot and, you know, killed up, so that you can clear the path for the people who are coming behind you. And I'm like, look, man, if I need to die so that the folks who get Ixalan can see Guatemala represented in their set, then you know what? Fine. We changed enough. We made it so that there's a world now where somebody who lives in a culture can envision seeing themselves in Magic the Gathering. And I'm like, that's a victory unto itself.
I'm glad you didn't die in the process, but you know what? I'm absolutely with you. Yeah.
I've had way too much fun in this game to pick up and leave. But God, dude, the mechanics of that set, making a vehicle set, I think, as we've now seen, is not a good idea. But that being notwithstanding, the other mechanics of the set ruled. Like, Fabricate is in my top 5 alongside like Exalted and Morph. And yeah, I mean, did you enjoy making that?
Oh yeah. I think so. I should also like give the huge asterisk of it was very much a Rosewater and I were co-leading the set, and so like, you know, it is like the biggest example I think is like when we were doing our initial investigation of like something in the energy space that could kind of be the core through line of the set, we experimented with a few forms of it and ended up with energy, which is a pretty like straightforward execution.
I love it.
The one that I actually was more fond of, if it had been a Shawn Elizabeth Main led set, the mechanic that I liked was gizmos, we called them at the time. I'm sure they would have gotten a real name. That were artifact tokens that did nothing. So you could then have creatures that said like, sacrifice an artifact to do something, tap an artifact.
That sounds like exactly the kind of crap that I would have been all over.
Well, I will say, I think, I mean, if I can, I know we're talking a lot about my designs. Another design I'm very proud of, clues.
I love clues.
But I think clues are a pretty elegant mechanic, and then food is a very elegant mechanic. I think food was the better execution of what Gizmos wanted to be, and giving them the like little bit of functionality that they have at their core. So then like really their purpose is to be sacrificed or tapped or blah, 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 whatever other thing.
Would it surprise you that one of my all-time favorite cards is Academy Manufactor, where if you make a food, clue, or treasure, you get all three?
Mm-hmm. That is quite a card. Yep.
Yes, it is broken as hell, and I adore it. Do you know, I don't know what your engagement with Magic is these days, but in the most recent set that just came out, Edge of Eternities, there's a card called Weapons Manufacturing. It's a 1 and a red enchantment, and it says whenever a non-token artifact you control enters the battlefield, create a colorless artifact token named Munitions with, when this token leaves the battlefield, it does 2 damage to any target. There's no way for you to get it to leave. The set's got lots of things which are like
beautiful.
when you sacrifice an artifact to pay for some other cost. And this is one of those cards where it's like if you draft it in limited and you build around it, you are just popcorning people in the face, and it is so good. But it's exactly like, oh look, here's a bunch of just do nothing rocks that are sitting on the table. Don't mind me. Whoops, you died.
During the time that Kaladesh came out, the concept of artifact tokens with a bunch of text on them was still a pretty novel concept. It had been done,
like gold tokens had existed before.
There were 2 cards that made gold tokens. M14. What was the one where we had other things that I did, like when I worked with the external designers for the set with them.
Oh yeah,
we had a rock token that you sacrificed to do something.
With Togo or whatever.
Yeah, M15, of course.
Yes.
So there were a few artifact tokens, but it was still a novel concept of like, let's do tokens that are not vanilla creatures, or
and then of course Ixalan's like, hey, here's infinite treasures.
I mean, yes, treasures became obviously the huge like well of design space and things, but yeah.
Here's a weird thing about that summer that I'm very curious about, because you worked on Kaladesh, you led the design for Hour of Devastation, you led Conspiracy 2. Those all came out very, very sequentially. That seems like a really rough time.
It's long enough ago, honestly, that I don't remember exactly.
Probably. Yeah, it was like a decade ago. Plus.
Yeah. At the time, it was very common to be leading one thing on like 2 or 3 other teams. I don't think I ever was in a situation where I was leading 2 things at once.
Oh yeah, I think I think even Wizard would not let you do that.
Yeah. It was very stacked, and I enjoyed a lot of that, to be honest. Like being on like the Tarkir development team, and we're like in a meeting where we're like pointing commons, and maybe this 2/2 should be a 2/3 or whatever, and then the next meeting is like, let's talk about 3-act structures and how that relates to like, I enjoyed that, jumping around from like zoomed in to zoomed out, but it is a very specific, interesting point about Magic design that, when you are constantly changing hats, but in very big ways. Yeah.
That sounds so, God, that's like a dream gig. So there were 2 questions that came up right while you were saying these things. I'm trying to remember what they were. What would you say is your favorite card that you got to design? Because I was just looking, and I remembered I have like a signed Cathar's Crusade from you. That
was the very first card I got in a set. Yeah,
and it's in my my soldiers deck, and everyone's like, God, I hate that card. I'm like, yeah, well, it's not going anywhere, so deal. It's very mathy, that card.
It definitely is. It's an intense, powerful card, but I feel like I have a boring answer. But Cogwork Librarian is the one that I'm just good. Like it. It was an early thing that solidified how Conspiracy played. The first time, like, I saw it get set in a table in a playtest, and like then suddenly everyone starts like paying attention. Like, I loved that. I probably, if I really thought about it, could come up with maybe the Marchesa from Conspiracy 2 in terms
that
of
card
like
is also great.
card that I'm just like have the fondness for, the like switching to like making assassins to go and reclaim it is just like,
So good.
tells a fun story.
Also, the myriad. No, that was in when the commander says melee was in the conspiracy.
Yep.
That was a great power. You know what? So Luis Scott Vargas, obviously one of the greatest players of all time. He has created a YouTube channel where basically he puts up a cube video every day, and he sits and he's got a personal server, and they all sit and draft his cube or other people's cubes and do it. And one of the things in this program that they use to draft these cubes with, because he's got a Clockwork Librarian in the deck, and whenever somebody drafts Librarian, everybody else in the draft gets a message saying this card has been drafted by this player. So you're suddenly like, oh crap, are they going to take 2 cards? What are they going to take? And of course, we've seen the ideal draft of like, I have this card, and then I just drafted 2 pieces of power. Get wrecked.
That's amazing. I love it.
It is the greatest feeling ever. It is maybe one of the best all-purpose draft cards of all time. It's right up there with what the hell, Stalking Tiger, or one of those other cards that's like open a pack. Like I love any card that's like add an extra pack to the draft, or just like open a pack, draft a card, throw it in your deck.
I feel like I'm now just bragging, but that's another card that I worked on. Like, because I was like, yes, I love the idea of
I established this conversation with literally anything this person makes is something that I'm going to adore.
I know, but now I feel like I'm just like, hey, I Stalking Tiger, and like that was a team effort by the design team, but I was like, hey, what's fun? Opening booster packs.
Yeah, it turns out. It turns out. I think there was a Stalking Target that was in Unstable. There was a black card that you opened a pack, and every creature that was in that pack comes out as a zombie. And like I did that once with a Legions pack, and it was literally the greatest feeling ever to be like,
that was the pack that it was. I mean, it's called Undead Legions as a reference to that, if I'm not mistaken. That one isn't Rosewater design, but
yeah, well, it's also hella fun as that is.
The one, if I may, the one card that I got in Unstable was me saying, you know what I really enjoy? I want to throw a card at the table like the old days of Chaos Orb. And so they made the luchador
the
praying mantis thing that fights everything.
You flick it from like a foot away or something.
Yeah.
It was so goofy. Oh god, dude.
That's my only card that's in an unset, I believe. But yeah.
Unstable was like it's one of the best draft formats of all time. It's one of the most fun unsets. And then Un4 was just not that. And it was a hot mess, and that's a shame. But whatever. That's somebody else's problem. Oh man. We've been talking for a very long time.
We have.
That's okay though, because I literally could talk praises about you all day long.
Oh, you're very sweet.
We should mention you did. So, like, I don't know. I don't want to go into why you might have left Wizards or not, but like,
I'm happy to talk about it. I mean,
why did you leave Wizards?
I guess it's a little bit of a complicated answer. Basically, like, there's a lot of people who are lifers. Rosewater is obviously a lifer at Wizards. Ethan, at this point, I think you can safely say is a lifer there. I was starting to feel restless. Like, I don't think I'm actually a lifer. I want to work on more games, and coincidentally, got invited to go work on a card game at Riot at the same time and help develop that. And it was shocking to me coming from an environment where like you have this very established pipeline of a game that had at that point like a 20-year history of like, things are very well understood to like we're making it up as we go along.
Oh god. Yeah, actually, I was very curious about that because I remember when I asked you, I think at that GDC that year or whatever, you were like, "Yeah, I got tired of being in the rain all the time. I missed the sunlight." That was the excuse you told me.
Wow, that's very poetic. I do not. I feel like I should remember saying something like that.
Yeah, I remember it very vividly. We were hanging out, and you're like, "Yeah, it turns out I just really miss being in LA and having the heat and the sun." And I'm like, "That is hella fair."
I get that. No, I would not have said that. I miss Seattle so much. I loved Seattle.
Not at that time, you certainly did not. You were I remember it because I was like, I've never heard anybody say that before. But you're like, I'm just
I
soggy and rained out. And I'm over
I
it.
I have very recently made my peace with Southern California because I, for a very long time, said, I like my job. I don't think I'm ever going to love LA.
Yeah,
At this point, I have a lot of people here I care about. I'd love to be back in Seattle someday. Um, but I recently found a part of the city that I'm a little bit fonder of, and actually feels like a community, which is nice. And I'm no longer at
sure.
Riot, but I mean, I spent 8 years there, so
That's such a long time.
it is a long time, and a lot of that working on another card game. And one of the things that was most exciting there was building like a roguelike single player mode for it. Um, and then working on TFT, which is a very different kind of drafting game than Magic. And that was fun because I got to work on uh, Arcane, or something that was tied into Arcane. So that was very exciting. The Netflix show.
Yeah,
Um,
I
but
watched 3 episodes of it, and I was like, this is great for someone else.
oh, that breaks my heart because I feel like it's such good fantasy writing
Yeah,
and
it
does
was
not
too
require
modern.
any knowledge. I mean, if you want like a not so modernish setting, it is very. It has. Uh, it- yeah, yeah.
I just got like my wife and I just got bored, and we were like, it's fine. We'll come back someday, and we never did because I was
Three
like, this is
three
all just a bunch of
episodes.
sad people, and it's very
Oh, I
modern.
mean,
And
it's so sad. I mean, the show is very sad. Uh, Part of me wants to say try one more episode because there's like a time jump, and so like the setting
I would have
changes
to
a little
rewatch
bit.
the whole thing, and I'm like,
But
I can't be
if
asked.
if if it wasn't for you, then it wasn't for you. But
Yeah,
it
like
was.
I have no problem with it. I know a lot of people love it, and I was just like,
Ah, and the
it's
animation
fine.
in it is so gorgeous. But anyway, I will not
Yeah.
give you the hard sell on Arcane. It was just something that was very fun to work on.
Yeah.
And then very recently, like beginning of the year, I left Riot to work on my own stuff because I kind of in a similar vein was like, I don't think I feel like I am doing a lot of design. I'm actually not a very competitive person. I mean, starting from the multiplayer stuff that might now sound obvious, but I've worked the last 14 years of my career in like competitive games, and I was like, I want to write stories and do something that's like, much more narrative first, and had some friends that I was able to convince that we should go off and make our own company and
Yeah, we
work
didn't even get to
on
talk about the
stuff
fact that
that's
you
much
like
more
love
personal.
roguelikes and stuff, don't you?
I do really like roguelikes, and I got to work a little bit on that at Riot, but this is much more like RPG, like here is a central narrative that we are telling a story
Mhm.
for. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the art at GDC and getting the pitch, and I'm like, I'm very excited to see what that comes into because it sounds very cool, and it sounds. And since we are from similar eras of time, I think
Mhm,
your
mhm.
design sensibilities align with a lot of what I enjoy. So I'm like, I'm just super here for it. Um, but yeah, like leaving, was it weird leaving Wizards, or was it just like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think I've done everything I wanted to do, and I'm good.
Um, I'm pausing because I'm like, there's a
Well, you want to?
story about it. Am I up to tell the story? I
That's
probably
a
should.
choice you can make.
I'm
Okay.
gonna decline to tell one story, but it was
You could save that for offline and tell me later.
uh there basically yes, it was a huge step to leave. It was very emotional, it was very fraught, and like, cuz like especially I think coming from the GDS, it's not like uh a lot of designers have a background where they're like jumping between a lot of companies. Maybe they start in like QA, then they like get a chance to like be a producer and jump around. And like Magic is so singular within like games that it's a very unique ecosystem because it is a live service game that is so well established, so grounded, and has such clear rules creatively and design wise that it's a great place to get an education. And so it was very shocking to move to another company that was actually also very stable overall, especially at that time. But where we're going into new territory and we're inventing things as we go. And it was very, very stressful for a while
Yeah,
there to
that's
figure
actually, I
that out.
think, the question I had, which is
Yeah.
that like Magic, like you said, it's there. There's pre-design, there's design, there's development, there's all of this like very
And
structured
like
system.
there's the skeleton of what a set looks like, and
Right,
there's even a sense of like you should be playing this much, but going this far away from the baseline is too far. And like
right.
you've got examples of like, everything. So yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You know what failed, you know what worked, you know that, oh, this set's going to need 2 flying white commons at like
Mhm,
4 mana or something. Like you've
mhm.
got like almost like color by numbers, but not I don't want to say that because that takes away a lot of the creativity, but it's
No, no,
very, very formula. It's very
but there's also
structured.
like uh okay, you've got your two white commons or whatever. Like, how is it different this time? Is so much of what the
Yeah.
creativity is, and you're like, okay, great, we've
So
got a
then
new
what do you
mechanic.
do? Yeah, so what do you do then when you go to
I'm gonna
Riot
pick
and
up
they're
an
literally
adorable
like,
kitten here.
yeah,
Um,
what do you do when you
this
go to
is
Riot
this
and
is
they're like, "Here,
Bean.
make it from scratch."
So one of the interesting things when I joined, I'm also hesitant because I'm like you not having particularly played much Legends of Runeterra, but
I
like
played it with the beta.
uh-huh, uh-huh. um, it was I came in at a time where they felt like we are ready to wrap up, and I got there and I was like, I think this needs more time to cook. Um, and so that was an interesting thing to be a part of. But video games operate very differently. Even something
Yeah.
that is
Oh,
like
that's
a
the other
card
huge
game at its
difference, isn't it?
core.
Like
Mhm,
Magic is a paper first product. Riot is a we can
mhm.
change this on the fly if it messes up.
But you also need to program everything. And I was big as I came in, and then um, uh, like was in a role where I was like setting a lot of like the design things. Sorry, I'm now
Yeah, I'm
this
like
cat is
hurting your cat.
chasing things around on my desk. So, um, uh, but um sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Oh yes,
You're
coming in with a sense of like, hey, we should think about this in terms of phases, we should think about this in terms of um uh like doing paper design before we commit to like coding a bunch of cards was like a little bit of a radical thing that I was able to bring in. um and then there's conversely some stuff that like took lessons from Magic but was able to like we had roughly the equivalent of a color pie, but it had different needs. And a
mm,
lot of the other designers were trying to treat it like it was Magic's color pie and give us the like what keyword goes in what color. And I had to write a philosophy guide that was like, no, this is not the Magic color pie. Things are going to break in different ways. And here is how to approach coming at this very differently.
yeah, like
So
that
yeah.
must have been fascinating trying to be like, I need to I've got this thing that I've internalized over the decade of working at Wizards and the 20 years of being a fan of the game, and I need to unlearn this. And that's the thing, Magic is so pervasive. And there was a while there we were calling Riot Wizard South because it was just so many people who were ex WotC employees who were just like basking in the sun and playing league and making league games.
Yeah.
But it was just like having to unlearn this core fundamental idea, which is and like the color pie is so strong and so well designed that it must be really challenging to be like, no, we got to look at this entirely differently.
Yeah, it is. It was both because like
Mm,
there's the here's something that's really good and successful about Magic, and then there was also the opportunity to be like, hey, I'll give you an easy example.
mm,
Uh, and sorry, these. I mean,
use whatever you want, dude. It's fine.
Well, it's mostly. I was gonna say like, sorry, these are such like personal things, but like, there's the weird, the problematic designer come like all my stories are like, let me tell you how I was the hero in this scenario. But
this
anyway,
is an interview show. It's about you. That's the point.
I like to give credit, and I'm not doing that at all because this is
fine.
anyway.
I will invite them on later.
A thing about Legends of Runeterra when I got there was it had Magic's damage system of things heal back up at the end of the round. And I was like, what are you doing? We're a digital game. That is not the intuitive thing to do. And double blocking is a weird mechanic in Magic that allows two creatures to damage one attacker and thus break symmetry states. If you take away but we were trying to represent in the UI and elements like that, and it was like, this is tedious to get into the UI of this digital game. And as soon as we asked the question, like, why are we trying to have this? Why are we not doing like a sticky damage system, like a Hearthstone or something? Yep, exactly. You don't need double blockers because two creatures can damage an attacker over multiple rounds, and you get the same concept of like, some smaller creatures that get to kill a bigger creature. Yep. So like things that were able to simplify the system were like we were able to like bring in, and that was very exciting to not be beholden to like all these concepts that like are very entrenched in Magic, but like are very specific to it being paper. In some cases are very specific to the history.
There must have been some really interesting learnings about the differences between what you can do in a video game based like card game versus the things that you were forced to do because it's a paper first product. Like you can get away with like 30 years of innovation since then of things that you don't need to do because like a mana system or whatever it is, because you're not beholden to it being print first.
But then we were a system that had shared a lot of DNA with a game like Magic, but like a Hearthstone or something, you just had like your mana ticking up over time. You didn't have the concept of lands. But of course, as Magic players have, I think, even if you have the frustration of like all the problems of the land system, everyone has internalized the good. And like these games that are about like symmetrical resource exchange as like this 2/2 crashes into this 2/2, and the game is just endlessly that if you don't have something to break that symmetry.
Like, look, I'm not going to slag on Flesh and Blood, but the fact that Flesh and Blood is basically, hey, did you like playing Odyssey Limited forever? Here's Flesh and Blood, where that's literally that. But you have to trade your cards in hand to be resources. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
I know it's a deep one, but I wish I could use that as a reference. But like we, finding a different way to break that symmetry, and we did it actually probably closer to how Commander does it in a certain sense, because we have cards that were these like legendary characters, the champions from League of Legends, that are just like more powerful, but you get a limited number of them. So we found different ways to break that fundamental symmetry of the game, but it required a little bit of like reinvention, and that was exciting. I mean, to be able to like go and spend some time doing those things. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, I'm glad that you got at least to have that experience, because that's always fun to try to do something from the ground up. And I don't know if you have any relationship to the new card game Riot is putting out, but I wish them luck with that.
I mean, I am friends with all those people. Many of them are themselves former Well, and a great number of them are actually former Wizards folks as well. So yeah,
the game industry is much smaller than
oh,
people
it's
think it is.
so small.
It
Yes.
turns out, like, everybody's like, "Oh man, you work at Sony. Don't you hate the people at Sega?" I'm like, "Why? They're going to work with me tomorrow." Like, it's you can't. That we're all. There's like 400 people in the industry. Chill. But that being said, you are now on your own projects. What are you actually doing with this company? What is your role?
So I am the
What was the company
it is
called again? You called Cursed Magic?
Cursed Magic. Our first game here is called Magical Reject. It is a very shoujo inspired, very Sailor Moon esque RPG, like uh, very heavily narrative. Uh, we have not posted enough artwork. I mean, we are still in very early days, but we have
Yeah,
some
you're like in naughty
absolutely gorgeous
hyper
art.
alpha.
Yeah, no, we're still trying to get like secure more funding, working with probably a
That's the games
publisher
industry.
soon.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. But I'm here as our game director, and I mean, we have a tiny team. I'm also doing lead design and lead narrative. And getting to do narrative stuff has been such a joy because it is very different, a different hat than I've ever gotten to do in games before. But my background, like doing theater and things, like it feels much more familiar from that.
Yes. I mean, I love doing narrative work. I think it's way more fun, but that's because I'm an old school D&D player at heart. And
I
what
mean,
is
me
D&D
too.
but
But yeah,
narrative game design, right?
yeah.
Uh, but my dear friend, we've now well and crested the
Yeah.
hour. I was just looking down at the clock and I'm like, oh man, it is bedtime.
It really
But
is.
if folks wanted to find you or your company or your games or whatever it is anymore, where could they go?
So
Is that even a thing anymore?
uh, uh, the probably the best place to find me is on Blue Sky at Shawn Elizabeth. Uh, the and from there you can find Cursed Magic. We do post on various socials a little bit. We need to be a lot better about it, especially because we do
You're an
have
indie
such
game. You got to do the hype machine
amazing art.
yourself.
I know we're just very busy. I mean, I've got 3
Yeah.
jobs I'm doing already, but
No, look. All I'm saying is, you've got friends like me. Leverage us. Say,
I would
hey, retweet this thing, and I will send it to the 100 billion people that follow me.
I mean,
It'll be
right
fine.
now, honestly, it's like just sharing
Yeah,
for
there's
the
like nothing.
purposes of like, get hyped. We're doing something really cool.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's still
publishers
early.
wouldn't, but like we're so far from like releasing anything. But that
Yeah,
said, there's some gorgeous artwork. Follow me or Coast Magic to see some of that really cool artwork.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Uh, anyways, I'm so grateful to you, my dear friend, for coming on,
It's
hanging
lovely
out
to
with
catch up.
me. Like I, I mean, some of the interviews are really intelligent, where I sit there and have great loyal conversations that are back and forth, and some of them are just Shivam gets a fanboy out for like an hour, and this was the latter.
Aww.
So, but I'm grateful for all the contributions you have made to our game, and I still think some of the stuff you did is some of the best stuff that we've ever gotten, and I'm really glad that we got to become friends afterwards and just hang out a lot,
Aww.
and it's cool. Uh, and it's also great.
I'm still waiting for them someday to ask me to do like come in for a contract to do Conspiracy 3, or
Yes,
at this point I'm going to throw this out into the universe. Gavin, Ethan, Rosewater, Aaron, if you want to ever do like a Sailor Moon set, bring me in for a contract to do that. So, yeah.
Look, they didn't call me for the Street Fighter set, so I don't know what to tell you.
Aww.
Oh, but you know what? I will say this: the Final Fantasy set, it was insanely good. I mean, as a lifelong Final Fantasy fan, I was hugely, hugely enamored with it. Anyways, but yes, thank you, Shawn Elizabeth, for joining me today. I'm so grateful, and like it's cool to see you just like blossoming into yourself. And I think your new company is really cool, and I'm stoked to see it. But yeah, friends, if you want to find me, you can find me at Shivam Bhatt on Blue Sky. You can find this podcast wherever podcasts are told, or on YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on Shivam, Wheeler Love Magic, or the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.